Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Marketing Corner.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yay! Boom! Let's
Yay.
go. Today is episode. I actually just forgot the number. Brain fart. What number? What number are we at, Jen?
105.
Jesus, that's right. Holy moly. Well, I think it's because I'm all into all these details about all this spying stuff going on. So my brain is filled up with that stuff. So if you haven't figured out by now, this is what we're going to talk about today. This is what we call urgent stuff to talk about. So sometimes you get thrown into the deep end of like, okay, conspiracy theories, like all this stuff, and it just needs to be explored on the spot.
Yes.
So without saying too much, can you set the scene for us a little bit, Jen? What is it we're going to be talking about for the next 25 minutes or so?
So my basic white girl true crime loving ass is obsessed with this case. So we are going to talk a little bit about Russia and spies and phones in toilets and everything in between. We're going to talk about the rippling Deel corporate espionage case.
And not Deel, like D-E-E-L. So like not the
D-E-E-L.
And just for everyone who doesn't know, two competitors. What do they do, Rippling and Deel, just for our listeners who don't know them?
I believe they are HR software. Oh, that's
yeah.
a point. Let's just trouble check that.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
And they it's a global infrastructure like some sort of HR software to help with that.
Yes.
Like
yes,
they can help
HR
with some team setups. Yeah.
Okay, good. I knew that part off the top of my head. I'm so obsessed with the details of this case that I didn't totally look into what they did. That's your job.
Yeah, I got you. All right.
So I played around with little different ways to call this this episode. But the best name has already been taken, which is The Spy Who Sassed Me. I love that. Clark Barron, well done, well played, but he got in too early. So I guess we can say when sassy gets dirty. We'll call it something like that. But this case is bonkers, and it is a racketeer influence and corrupt organizations case, otherwise known as a RICO case, which is usually what gangs get. Like, so when it's a gang who's doing money laundering or human trafficking or extortion, it's a RICO case. This has been filed as a RICO case.
Okay.
That's how big this is. Yeah.
And just for everyone listening, this has been out for like a little bit more than a week now, right? Like
a little over a week.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you first hear about it? Let's start there, Jen.
Yes, so I saw it on LinkedIn, and then I completely went down a rabbit hole to the point where I've actually read the 50-page official complaint filed with the California courts. So I just thought it was really interesting of the lengths that people go to in SaaS, because you hear about these things with like huge, political figures or Google. I know Tesla, Google, they've had these kind of experiences, but in our little SaaS bubble, I think it was a little shocking to hear the lengths that people go to in SaaS to get ahead. And actually, we should say first, allegedly. Yeah. Because no one has been found guilty.
There's no and we're not here to throw shade or anything. We're just here telling what we know and what we hear, right? I think just to just in high level notes, what's been going on. Like essentially, one of them, and it's Deel who's been doing to Rippling, right? Is that true?
Yes.
Or again, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And in high level, as far as I understand and have read it, it's what we call corporate espionage, right? So someone has been placed from Deel inside of Rippling to try and steal potential customers while working for that company, right?
That's one part of three amazing parts, but that's the main complaint. The main complaint is sales sabotage, basically.
Okay, can you explain the three? Maybe let's start there. We'll explain the three complaints or so.
Well, so I have like a chronological order, but I will start with the three main kind of areas. So one is the sales sabotage. So it's stealing data on customers or potential prospects. Yeah. Two, it's poaching employees. So Rippling, in the Rippling complaint, team members have been approached with offers without even being interviewed. They have been just given offers by Deel. Allegedly. And last but not least is leaked information that deals with Russian sanctions, which is also super crazy. Yeah. So the more I learned about this, the more it was like such a rabbit hole. So yeah. So shall we dive in?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so this is going to be a Jen heavy episode. Apologies in advance, but I really, really went into a rabbit hole on this. But cool. So let's start it with a chronological order. So in June of 2023, the accused, which they're listed as DS. I don't know if that stands for the spy or what, but DS is the individual's name. I know it's such a boomer joke there, but so in June of 2023, DS joins Rippling as the Global Payroll Compliance Manager. That's their job title, based in Ireland. And as the Global Payroll Compliance Manager, they are granted access to all the internal systems like Slack, Salesforce, Google Drive, and HR systems. So they have access to a lot of highly classified sensitive information. So then they start noticing, well, they haven't noticed this yet. So they haven't seen this yet, but what's happening is this is when they believe, late 2024, Rippling believed that DS was turned into a spy on behalf of Deel, allegedly. So he starts running daily searches in the internal systems for the term Deel, D-E-E-L. So that's a competitor. On average, 23 times a day, he's searching for Deel.
That's a lot.
That's suspicious.
Yeah.
That's from Cardi B. That's suspicious. So they looked at Slack channels relating to prospective clients, and he either viewed or downloaded sensitive information over 1,300 times in 4 months.
Jesus.
And he specifically used the Slack preview mode, which does not give a notification so that he wouldn't get detected. So this is what's in the complaint. So this happened in late 2024. But then Russia is involved because they always are. No, allegedly. So in February of 2025, so relatively recently, an investigative reporter from The Information contacts Rippling because they're working on a story about doing deals with Russia, which is in Europe, is against sanctions. Russia is being sanctioned for what's going on in Ukraine. You're not allowed to do deals with Russia. So a reporter for the Information contacts Rippling about a story about dealing with Russia. So the report basically says that a company called Tinybird was using Deel to route money into sanctioned Russian banks, which is violating European sanctions. That's the kind of Russia side of things. But the way that the reporter approached Rippling is they had 11 allegations that were leaked through internal Slack messages. So this reporter got hold of Rippling's Slack messages, which were internal, and used this to outreach Rippling saying, do you have any comment? And this is how Rippling found out that they've been brought into this Russia sanctions thing. So Rippling denied the claims. They've never done any deals with Russia. Deel originally claimed that the lawsuit that we're talking about in this episode was a way to distract people from the fact that Rippling were doing deals with Russia, but eventually walked back those claims. So they then said they didn't know what they were talking about. So this is kind of how everything kind of unravels, is because Rippling claimed that DS searched for the terms like Russia, Belarus, UNpack, and Tinybird in Rippling systems before the reporter reached out. And so the search terms that they found this individual searching matched perfectly with what the reporter shared with Rippling. So this was, you know what I mean? So like, hopefully that makes sense, but it shows that this individual did a search in their internal systems for certain words that were later passed to a reporter. So that's how they knew how the reporter got these terms, right? So they decide to do they decide to do an audit of their Slack channels. So this is how all the house of cards falls down. Because of this Russia Slack leak, they've decided to do an audit of all of their internal channels, and that's where they discover all of this activity. So, and this is the best part for me, my opinion, they create a honeypot. So how they actually trap this person is in March 2025. So this month, they created at Rippling, they created a fake Slack channel called Defectors. It's completely empty. No one knew about it except for the legal counsel and upper echelon of Rippling. They then, on the 3rd of March, they sent a private legal letter to the chair of Deel, who also happens to be Deel's CEO's father, and the legal team at Deel. saying that there's this Slack channel called Defectors that contains embarrassing information from former Deel employees. So keep in mind, in this letter, the only people who know about this are the highest people in Rippling and their legal team, and then the CEO's dad of their competitor and their legal team. Within hours, that individual DS searches for this Slack channel in the internal systems at Rippling. So somehow this person at Rippling found out about this channel that no one else at Rippling knew about. So they're claiming that Deel, you get it? So Deel told them search for this channel. So that's how he got caught, which is brilliant, I think. So
that's insane. Yeah.
This guy's looking for a Slack channel that no one knows about except the legal team and the CEO's dad. So how did he know about it? That's suspicious. So they go to court. Rippling gets a court order from the Irish court to seize this person's phone. A search and seizure, I guess, is what you would call it. And this is what they call a penal endorsement, which means that if you don't give us your phone, you're going to jail. So they show up at Rippling's office with officers and this kind of warrant, I guess we would call it in America, probably what you hear on TV, but saying you have to give us your phone. He's like, oh, I think my phone's upstairs. Bullshit. No one leaves their phone on another floor. But he goes upstairs, can't find his phone. Next thing you know, he locks himself in a bathroom and he refuses to come out.
Wow.
So the officers then hear a lot of flushing and what sounds like tampering with the phone. So they think he's trying to flush the phone down the toilet. He then exits the toilet, still refuses to give up his phone, and flees the building yelling, I'm willing to take the risk. And he flees.
What?
Yes. So I think they eventually did get the phone. The complaint has been filed, but basically they're saying that it's corporate espionage. They stole trade secrets, they stole data, and they actively obstructed a legal investigation because they refused to give up the phone. And obviously this was a coordinated plot. This wasn't just one person acting weird. It was a coordinated plot from Deel. So that's what we know of this thing. It's crazy to me, but it's super exciting. It's probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened in SaaS. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
So I heard about this toilet story. Like I heard that part. I read the part. The whole Russia thing I've never heard about. That was crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
But I think the question we need to or we want to cover here, or at least get into, is like, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but I'm just like, how much of a thing do you think this is across the board?
Exactly. How common is this? Yeah. So this is the first one that I've heard of with our community. So you can say the SaaS community. But I did a little research and it's more common than you think. There's a lot of these things happening in the SaaS kind of startup community, which I was really surprised of. Have you ever encountered anything or heard of anything? Allegedly.
Again, allegedly. I think there was something when I used to work at Trustpilot, and again, and it was not Trustpilot doing it, but someone doing it to Trustpilot, because I think there was a lot but that was a little bit more it wasn't official espionage, I guess, but most that kind of stuff where people work at the company, then start a new company the day after they suddenly have 50 new clients, or all Trustpilot clients got stolen or something, right? So there was something there, some of that stuff happened, and I don't know all the details, but that again allegedly. But that I remember hearing stuff around that where I used to be part of that. So that's that I remember, but not. I haven't tried anything myself beyond that.
You haven't tried it yourself. You haven't tried a corporate espionage?
No. But I also think you have to have a certain size, right? In the case here, you can't just be a 50-man startup, right? Probably. It has to be
I don't know. I mean, if you're some of the cases that I've seen, a really common thing is you start working at one company and then you take their code and then you start your own business.
Yes.
So that's something that happens, and that came up when I was searching for other cases like this. That happens quite frequently. So someone steals code.
That's stuff I've seen.
And
I've seen a lot, a lot wrong. But I've seen stuff like that. So either taking code or stuff like that, proprietary stuff, or taking customers, customer lists or stuff like that. A lot of that. There's a reason. A lot of when people get fired or get let go or stuff, you cut off their access. It's actually prevent them from stealing stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's,
right?
I think that's always, especially I think if you work in sales or if you work in maybe engineering, that's always going to be a fear of, stealing clients, stealing prospects. There's, in The Office even have a whole episode dedicated to it where they steal, leads from other companies. And I think that part is very, very common. I know when I've worked at companies, there's been, if I've left one company for another, I can't leave for a direct competitor. When I lived in London, I did go from one company to a direct competitor, and I had to sign all kinds of NDAs, and I was watched like a hawk, I think, for your first sort of 6 months. But I didn't work in sales, so it's a little different. Yeah. I mean, we've had, I won't say the name of the company. We didn't have necessarily corporate espionage, but we did have a fraud case. Not that we did, but a person within the company did. And this person was a salesperson who very cleverly somehow managed to get access to other people's Salesforce accounts and was able to open deals on their behalf. And what he would do is he would find out what companies had filed for bankruptcy, and then he would open them and forge a signature as they are a new customer, collect the commission, and then the company goes bankrupt. Yes.
No way.
Yeah. Very clever, but obviously fraud, because these companies were never actual customers. And so he got the commission, and then the company's like, well, we're bankrupt. And there was no clause for, if you open a company and then it goes bankrupt. So the company, again, kind of like your case, like they were very good at keeping this hush hush. Only, I wasn't a need to know. I knew like rumblings of what had happened. But I know that they pursued legal action against this individual. But the way I was involved was that he was so good at sales, right? He was really good at it. So I kept meeting with him and I'm like, what is your secret? How are you doing this? Like, help us from marketing, bring your insights to the top of the funnel. Let's make this work. And he was very, oh no, I just studied psychology and I really understand people. Like, it was always very fluffy. There was never anything I could get my hands around. And then we found out that this is what was happening. Obviously he disappeared. We never saw him again.
Yeah.
But then he came back. He crawled out of the woodwork because I saw, for some reason, we're connected on LinkedIn, even though he uses a different name now. And he was announcing that he had just gotten a CRO position at another company. And I knew someone at this company. I reached out and said, hey, look, you might want to look into this guy because like he's a bit dodgy. And I put my CEO at the company where this all went down in touch with their CEO, and they talked, and then he ended up being let go because he lied on his CV. So he just kept grifting.
I think that's
so not
an
quite
interesting point too, like also the story, because like also it proves a little bit my point sometimes, like especially for you and I, we both are in Copenhagen, we're in Denmark, and B2B SaaS in Denmark and Copenhagen, that's small. Like B2B SaaS in general is small, but if you only circulate around Denmark or Copenhagen, really small.
Really
AKA,
small.
Everyone knows everyone, right?
Everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone. That's totally cool. It has its benefits. That means you can always talk to people in other companies and stuff like that. But my point is also, it also has the drawbacks that I feel like there's a lot of good people who rotate. Like that's really, so when you move from one company to another, but also means a lot of the bad seeds keep rotating.
Yes.
And it's not always you get to figure out who the bad seeds are because they keep rotating. And I think that story kind of reflects that. Okay, that you kind of stopped it here because it was a little bit rough, right? It was harsh, but that's kind of my point, right? It's that's also not great.
No, and it. I mean, this is maybe not totally the point of the topic or the podcast, but I think it raises a really good point of like references. Like I make it a point that if someone is let go because they're bad at what they do or not nice, I don't give them a good reference because that reflects badly on me. And I've seen situations where someone who's let go for incompetence, but to be nice, you give them a good reference and they just continue to grift and go around and do the same bad shit everywhere they go, and they never get held accountable. And I told myself, I saw this happen firsthand where someone who probably shouldn't have got a good reference, and it came back badly on the person who gave the reference. Like, hey, what the hell? You recommended this person and they're terrible. So I make it a point now, if I don't feel comfortable giving the reference, I don't. I've had situations where someone who was not very good at their role gave me as a reference without getting my permission. And then I've been reached out to and I've been honest with that company and said, I wouldn't hire this person, which maybe that's a little bit harsh, but like, if you're really not good, my reputation is also on the line of giving a good reference for someone who isn't good, right?
Yeah. And I think that it's always a little bit precarious when it comes to references, because you can't as an employer, you're not allowed to give up information from a Danish perspective about like private things going on, like political observations, all these kind of stuff, right? So it's always, you got to tread a little bit careful. Like if you go down the path of saying like, hey, this guy's a bit of a schmuck, right? Like you can't just say that, right? Like you gotta be a little bit like it's a little bit
keep it to performance, right? Keep it to performance. So I had like one case where someone's like, oh, did this person do A, B, and C? And I said, no, they did not. They didn't do that. I'm sorry. Okay. Like someone else did that. I know they're passionate about it, but they did not do it. They did not own it. You know, so you can't be like, oh, they're a jerk. It's you have to keep it professional.
How do you so this thing about rippling and Deel. So first things first, so that's still ongoing. So we don't know what it's gonna end up like. But how, like, do you think this changes anything, like moving forward? Like, do you think there's gonna be more security around it? Like, do you think it actually? Personally, I'm not 100% sure it changes anything, but like, I'm just curious. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I wonder if there's going to be like a Slack feature where you can be alerted if someone's searching for dodgy stuff, right? Because the fact that this individual was searching for their direct competitor, and also keep in mind, this individual had nothing to do with sales. They were a payroll. So they shouldn't have, you know, they weren't in sales.
I thought they were in sales.
So, no, they were payroll compliance, right? So why are you looking into our systems? Why, you know, so I think maybe there'll be more filters to keep that under control. I know with this individual that I mentioned, in my case, the fraud case, one of the things that was brought in, which I think is best practice anyway, is that instead of sales getting their full commission based on a contract being signed, they would get half on signing, and then they would get the other half when the person was onboarded. And that's how they made sure, A, to stop this fraud situation, but B, to also make sure that they're right fit, right? Make sure that they're good fit customers. And I think that's a really good idea. So I think, you know, what I also, I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is, it's good to see good reactions. It's good to see like, this is not reflective of us as a company, and so we're putting things in place. Deel have not come out and said anything like that, because I think this is might be a more coordinated effort at Deel. But I think when individuals, you know, as a company, when an individual does something dodgy, it's your response is everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Wow.
Yeah. But I think it's hard, like stealing code and stealing prospects. I don't really, it's been happening for ages, and I don't really know how. Anytime, it's like with GDPR, you know, a new thing comes in and we find a loophole. I think anyone who really wants to do it bad enough is going to find a way to cheat, and that's the shame of it.
Have you researched into what's the worst outcome for that person here? Like, what are they looking into? There's like, let's say they get convicted of all this stuff. It's jail time, right? Like, how bad is it? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to speculate, actually, because we don't know if they're guilty. But yeah, it is definitely jail time.
But it's we're talking jail time. We're talking serious jail time, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, it's serious jail time for whoever was involved in this.
I'm curious, just out of like pure curiosity here. I know none of us really know, so just pure speculation. But it's like, how much do you get paid for this stuff? Like, just like, how much
was it worth it?
What was it worth it? Like, what's the amount you would get? So let's say you have a normal paycheck, right? Is it like, do you get an extra paycheck on top of that? That wouldn't be enough. Like, I'm not saying I would ever do this. Like, but let's see. But there's always an amount, right? Like, what's the? I'm curious. Like, what's the amount here? Like, for someone to consider something like this? I think I'm just curious here. Like, how much did you get paid for doing something like this?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, because I mean, what is worth jail time?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, it's a
what
pretty
amount of
serious
money
thing, right? Like,
and they weren't even that sophisticated about it. And I think that's where I get a little annoyed. Like, you didn't even try to hide it. You were just searching 23 times a day looking for your competitors. Like, you weren't.
They probably didn't think that people could find out they were searching for stuff, right?
Yeah, like, that's probably it.
But I think the honeypot was super smart, though. Super smart.
Super smart. Yeah, and I guess, the question this also raises is like, is this where we're at now? We talk about like growth at all costs, right? And it used to be, financially speaking, growth at all costs, but actually like growth at ethically and moral cost, like, is this where we're at now? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying. Like, and maybe like, and not to go into AI and stuff, but I feel like AI is also going to play a part in all of this, right? Like, there's going to be some sort of AI espionage. Like, technically, imagine you go in here. Now, I'm just spitballing. I have no idea if this is possible. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Imagine this person's pretty smart. So he goes in and he deploys some sort of AI agent into their Slack or into their system somehow. Someone's non-detectable AI or something. That's only job is just to extract information without leaving traces. And this AI is trained to do this, right? That's the only thing you do. The only thing you need to give it is the access, and he can give it the access point, and then cool, off you go, off to races. I see a future with that stuff happening. Well, if it's not already happening, and we don't even know, right?
But also like deepfake videos, right? Like we're seeing now. I saw a couple of things on LinkedIn where people are using deepfake videos or deepfake AI to attend interviews online.
Yeah.
So now HR people have to say, okay, look to the left, and now I want you to look up, and now I want you to look right, because they have to do that to make sure that you're not an AI generated avatar in a video. So like, what if your boss Zoom calls you and says, I need you to send me these files ASAP, or I need you to do this, and it's there's so many things that we're so vulnerable, the increase with technologies. So hopefully maybe that's something you have to do when you get a video call from your boss asking you to do something weird. You go, can you look to your left and then look to your right? Because they're not programmed to do that. It's not preloaded in them.
And there will be a point in time where that's not enough, right? Either. So
we'll find a way to ruin that as well. So I think it's a very scary. With this kind of corporate espionage is just getting worse and worse with the advance of technology and with more on the line. And now if you have Russia involved and you have China involved and you have, a lot of big players, a lot of the cases that I found involved China, people stealing code, sending it to China. There was one, actually, I think it was Google, actually, where it was an ex-Google engineer was charged with economic espionage and theft of trade secrets, establishing a Chinese AI startup from what they learned at Google. So like, the race to be number one is coming at all costs. I think that's a really interesting time.
And on that note, I think we're in today, but I'm glad we gave Jen the opportunity to go down the rabbit hole.
Detective.
Detective
I loved
Jen.
It. Yeah. Detective Jen. My little murder she wrote.
But if you've been listening so far, like I'm just curious, do you have any stories out there, like people listening here? Any stories, any cool that we haven't heard about, any like stuff like this? Please, I'll be happy to throw Jen down the rabbit hole again.
Oh, please give me some true crime stuff. Let me live out my
true crime espionage.
Espionage. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, if you've heard of this happening, if you have cases, please share them, because the more we know, the more we can see how big this problem is. And I think also, what measures are you taking? What's your plan to thwart these attempts?
I don't know too much about this stuff, but I feel like it's very intriguing, not in a good way, but it's like it's one of those things you're not really aware it's going on before like it's right in your face, like, okay, this is a thing apparently all the time.
This is a thing. And I think most companies too, like if they do a good job containing it, you don't even know.
Exactly. Good point.
It's also impacting your brand. It's also impacting your
embarrassing
brand.
To some extent. I think it's embarrassing. I also think like at the end of the day, Rippling's is going to look so much stronger from this, right? Like coming
how
out
they
of
handled it.
That whole brand story is only going to be more powerful. Like, but that's another note for another day.
Yeah, so good. They needed a spy to
exactly. You could use that
to try to compete with us.
I would sign up just for that reason alone.
Let's keep an eye on Rippling and see how they play this. But it's kind of wild that all the different moving parts and how it all came together, and something so simple brought the whole house of cards down. So So share with us your thoughts and experiences, and I guess we'll see you on one. This is one episode where we had no insights other than this just happened. Let's talk about it. OMG.
Yeah,
But
it's fine.
yeah. See
All
you on
right.
the next episode, kids.
Thanks for listening. Bye, folks.
Bye.